Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about typography in UI. Typography might sound like a heavy or even intimidating subject at first, but once you understand the basics, it becomes one of the most powerful tools in design. The goal of this video is to help you confidently create and use a type scale for your projects. To get there, we will go step by step. First, we will go over some important terminology. Then, we will look at font types and how to choose the right one. Then, we will focus on creating a type scale, and eventually, we will work on styling that scale we created and then apply it on the real UI examples. When I first started with UI design, typography felt really overwhelming. There were so many rules and details to get it right, especially there were thousands of typefaces, so choosing from them made me feel stuck every time I started a project. But the more I studied it, the more I realized typography isn't about memorizing endless rules. It's about learning some base principles, practicing them, and then adapting them to your project. Once you know the basics, it becomes easier and even fun to work with. So, with that mindset, let's get started. When you start a design project, your first or the second task will be choosing the font. Then, styling font is the most recurring task with typography throughout the project. So, typography is important and should never be put aside till we are at the end of the project. It is the part of everything you read and it should be considered in all aspects of design, focusing on fonts, readability, usability, and visual communication. Now, before we go deeper in typography, let's clear up something that almost everyone finds confusing. I still get confused in these two terms, typeface and font, when I am not feeling fresh during the work. So, we will focus on the difference between typeface and font. These two terms are often used interchangeably, but however, they have distinct meaning. A typeface is an overall design, the style that is shared across the letters, numbers, the symbols. For example, the whole family of Arial or Times New Roman or even Comic Sans. They are all typefaces. A font, on the other hand, is a specific instance of that typeface. So if you take the typeface Roboto and then choose Roboto Italic or Roboto Extra Bold at 15 pixel or 12 pixel, that specific weight, style, and size combination is what we call a font. The origin of these words dates back into the history of printing. Originally, a font meant a single set of metal type carved pieces of, lead that had single size and style of the letters. Printing would physically, you know, if printers would physically arrange those metal letters, ink them, and press them onto paper. That's where the vocabulary came from. I have attached a YouTube video in the description on letterpress printing. It is a very interesting topic. So, to simplify, a typeface is a design family like Arial or Roboto, while a font is one style or size from that family, like Roboto being bold at 16 pixel size. Most people today casually say font when they really mean typeface, and that's fine in everyday conversation. However, as a designer, it is important to understand the distinction as it enables us to be more precise when working with typography. Nowadays, if you download a font, you will get a set of OTF or TTF file for each of these fonts within it. At the minimum, the typefaces these days include uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, even fractions and mathematical symbols, punctuations, and special characters and ligatures. Ligatures are specially drawn combination of two or more letters. Creating typefaces is a very kind, time consuming and advanced level of design work. Like any other work of design, they are protected as intellectual property. Some typefaces are available for free to us by companies like Google Fonts. But suppose you're looking to distinguish your work from others, some high quality typefaces, uh, you can buy them, or the company you are working with can purchase them, and then you can download them and use them legally. So let's see how you can download a font from Google Fonts. So this is a platform, Google fonts.google.com, and here you have quite a lot of filters you can apply to look for what exactly you are looking for, or you can just simply search. So let's say I am looking for the fonts who have more than or at least five number of styles, and it is giving me options. I can either select this one, or even I can find someone by typing the name. And now I just have to click on this and download this font. Then I have to go to my downloads and extract this like this. From the extracted file, I will see all the fonts available to me. Now I'm going to click on one of these, and here it is giving me options to install or print. So all I have to do is to click install, and it will just simply install uh, to one user or all the users of this laptop as I select. Right now, Lato is installed in my laptop, so I won't be clicking on install. Feel free to give it a try. Now that we understand the difference between the typeface and the font, we will learn more terminology to help us make better decisions in creating a type scale. So the next word we have is baseline. All letters rest on an invisible line known as a baseline. In material design, the baseline is an important specification in measuring the vertical distance between letter and the text and an element. So here, this red line is what all the letters are sitting at. Next, we have x height. The distance between the baseline and the height of the lower letter x is the x height. Let's look at this here. So here you see this is the capital letter and this is a small letter. So all small letter approximately are equal to the letter x, and this size, the size of smaller letters is called x height. Typefaces with tall X heights have better legibility at small font sizes as the white space within each letter makes it more legible. The distance between the baseline and the top of the capital letter here. So baseline where every letter is sitting at, and the top, like the size of the capital letter we are talking about it, that is called the cap height. So you'll see how it is different. Some letters extend beyond the baseline and x height, and this is because from a distance our eyes see circles as smaller than, squares. So these extended vertical strokes are called ascenders and descenders. So if you go look at closely on these letters uh, in the bigger version, actually, you will see that this line, the x height, the line passes through here, but the n is slightly over this line. And this happens with quite a few rounded characters like here with E and here with C. So if it is extended on the top, it is called ascender, and if it is extended at the bottom, it is called descender. Next, so how exactly is this information helpful? Typefaces with large X height with proportionally larger lowercase letters look bigger and more legible on the page. Fonts like Verdana, Calibri, Helvetica, and Roboto have larger X heights in proportion, making them appear more friendlier. On the other hand, D. Dot, Baskerville, and Times New Roman have smaller X height, making them elegant, traditional, and formal, but harder to read if compared with Verdana and Helvetica. Next, we have stroke. Stroke weight contributes to type's color on how dark or light it appears when set in text. A stroke can be a straight or a curved line based on what font or typeface we are working with. It creates the principal part of the letter. So let's look at in the bigger picture. So you will see that here all of these areas are different in weight in with respect to the stroke. Some fonts will have more balanced or equal stroke throughout the flow, throughout the letter, but some fonts, especially the serif fonts, will have variety in the weight of the stroke. So a bowl is within the stroke there is another word. So bowl is a rounded stroke that forms the basic body shape of the letter, and the white space enclosed by the letter form is called encounter. So you see this P, this is making an enclosed shape. This is called counter, and it's basically the opposite of the stroke, the word counter. And if the enclosed space is partially closed, like in C or in the top part of letter A, it is known as aperture. Also, since we are talking about detailing in the stroke, that cute little dot we have in I and J is called tittle. How is this information useful to us? Well, if the stroke of the font is too light, it won't be readable by the user on certain screen sizes, and in fact on older screens with low resolution. So by the way, don't worry if this is too much to remember. It will take some time to practice all this information. In the meanwhile, I have attached a fun game named Shape Method in the description for you to practice your typing. Next, we have weight. So in some typefaces, the thickness remains constant throughout the stroke, especially in sans serif fonts typefaces. However, in some typefaces, particularly those with, serifs and handwritten, the weight of the letter varies in different parts. In fact, in some typefaces, stroke often ends with a small wedge-shaped form like serif, which actually divides the typefaces into major categories that we will discuss later in this video. So how it is useful to, for us to know about weight? Well, as a designer, we are always supposed to choose a type with at least 5 weights to create a type scale for your project. We will see this in action when we are actually creating the type scale. Take a look at this example of Roboto in different weights and then the same weights in italic styling. Next, we have letter spacing or tracking. According to material design, letter spacing, also called as known as tracking, refers to the uniform adjustment of the space between the letters in a piece of text. Here we need to understand that tracking is the space between a whole group of letters, not two individual ones. Most programs let you condense or expand this expanding, depending on your needs. Let's see how it is done in Figma. So if I go on a screen and I hit T on my screen or click this T and start typing this like this, I see this layer in the panel and a few controls in this section, typography section. So I'm gonna resize it actually I'm gonna make this bigger and let's see what we can do with this. So here we have a whole bunch of options we can uh, use to customize what we are to achieve what we are aiming for. So here we have a whole bunch of fonts that are available to us. Google fonts are free to use in Figma, but do give it the license a read to understand how much of a customization control you have in fonts. So what we are going to do here is just simply use enter as typeface here, and then in the this drop down we have, if we hover over it, click over it, we will see a whole bunch of options to choose from for the weight. So if this is a heading, we can go choose black, even extra black, bold, semi bold, or even medium, depending on what type of design you're trying to achieve. And then we have a size drop down, and from here you should be able to select from the given options, or you can manually enter a number here. So I'm entering 34 and these values are in pixels. And now the next option, we were talking about letter spacing, and we are skipping the line height for now. So let's look at the letter spacing. So here we are saying that by default it is 0 pixel. So if I just start increasing, you see how these words are I have stopped making sense after a certain limit. And if I try to make apply a negative value, it also stops making sense after a certain number. So turning this back to 0 for now. So this is how you will be able to alter the letter spacing in Figma. Next we have the line height. Before line height, actually, we have another term related to tracking, which is called kerning, which refers to the space between two individual letters. So remember that when we are talking about tracking, we are talking about the space between a whole bunch of letters. But when we are talking about kerning, we are talking about space between two individual letters. For example, only T and R, or maybe K and I. Sometimes certain fonts have a poor kerning, especially when they are used in bigger headings, causing certain letters to appear improperly spaced, especially um, when you are using anything non-traditional. Like one example I just said is larger headings, and another can be caps, all caps, which are not usually used in the longer sentences so so you might run into the situation where you need to adjust the kerning manually. Here you need to understand is that most softwares do it automatically for you, but if you do run into a situation like this, all you have to do is just click on those two letters and individually fix the spacing or uh, letter spacing between them. So you will see how I have reduced the spacing and it only got applied to only these two letters. For smaller type sizes, looser letter spacing can improve the readability, and as for more space between letter is added means the we increase the space between the contrast between each letter shape also increases. I think I messed up this sentence. What I'm saying is that we need to have looser letter spacing on smaller type sizes, and we need to have tighter letter spacing on the larger font. So let's look at that too. So if I'm using something like, let's make this small actually. So let's say this is a heading, and we make it 72. Here I am on 100% zoom, and we see we can easily reduce some letter spacing in it. So let's go with -2 pixel. It is still readable, but if I make a copy and bring up some small text, some longer text for the body, and the font size is, let's say, 20, we need to be at 100% to see how user is going to read. And let's scale it and see, this is -2 and it is not readable. The words like the same -2, it is not readable at 20. So I'm gonna go back to 0, and I'm gonna go make it regular, and it is readable. But if I go make it 12, I might have to increase a little bit letter spacing. So let's add +1 value. Oh, it is a lot. Maybe 0.25 pixel or zero point 0.5 actually. So it should make it more readable. Yeah, it looks good. Now we are moving towards the line height. Line height, also known as leading. So leading, for example, is the vertical space between the lines of the text. It is also known as line spacing, by the way. There is one thing you should understand is typography is as much about shaping in the space between and around the letters, words, and the block of text as it is about the shaping type itself. In typography, there are terms for different kind of spaces, and there are principles that govern these how those spaces should relate to each other. So that's why we are actually learning about different type of spacing here within the typography. So so notice the red box. This indicates the line height control. So let's go mess with line height. So here I have selected a layer which is my heading, and here I'm seeing the option line height, and by default, actually it's not default, by default it would be auto. Right now I have added a value of 120 here. So what we are going to do is we are going to try and increase this. So notice is the blue wrap around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it 160% and make how look how this box is now bigger. So right now we don't have this kind of words. Like I'm gonna add some random words in it. B X Y Z. So yeah. So now look at this blue box and you see it is taking a little too much of space. When I will be working on spacing between the layers, like vertical spacing, and I place this right next to it, and it says that the spacing between these two elements is 0, but it feels very far away. So we need to be very wise on how much of a line height we are using. So so what I encourage you to do is to try what is working and what is not. So if I'll try reducing it to 140, looks sweet. Maybe we can do it more because my heading is not going to go on more than one line uh, according to the design what I have planned. So I'll try 120. I still have some space left on the top. So let's try actually, 90. So when I tried 90, now I'm going to zoom in and show you a little problem we am just noticing. So this Y tail is now outside that blue box, meaning if I place these two items and it has a spacing of 12 and even 16, but it feels like there is no spacing. Visually, the space is not visible. So we found out we cannot go near 90. So let's try 120 for this one. And now all of the elements are bound within this box. 120 is working fine for this particular font for this larger scale. But now we are in the bottom with the body text. And you see, I am going to go on 100% zoom and see, making it actually a little bigger, 120. You see, if I try to read it, some of these lines are tighter, so I need to work on the line height, meaning where the paragraph starts, there is more space, and I like that much space. So let's try to increase it. So here, remember, here for the heading, we are near 120%, and here with the line height, I'm trying to increase it. One same 120% is not working, so I'm gonna go with 140. And look at this. Now, if you give it a read, it is more readable, and the content, the line, the text, this won't overlap. So you need to experiment with the limits on how what we can do and we can't. Let's try 90% actually, and you see how it is not readable anymore because the words in the lines are overlapping. So some practical tips I'm going to share here are, it is fine to leave this auto setup here. So here by default when you are here it will have something like this. It is totally okay to leave it at auto, but if you want to add values manually, the safe range for the headings is 80% to 120% based on what font and styling you are using. So here you saw that I tried 90, it didn't work, so I moved up to 120 and it worked fine. But if I try it on some other font, let's try that. So it probably won't work in most of them. So I'm gonna try this fancy font and see. Actually, the 120 is working. Maybe so you can experiment with other fonts. 120 is actually we are in good spot. We didn't like if it was 100, maybe we will mess up a few details. Anyway, so 80 to 120 is a sweet spot, but in percentage. Remember, we are using percentage. Is a sweet spot for the headings. For the body text, uh, a range of 120 to 160 is an ideal range. Usually, anything lesser than 120 will become harder to read, and anything over 160 will also become harder to read. But you should experiment with it. So, here, as you remember, I tried 140%. One more detail you need to understand it here is the line height and letter spacing. I think both of them can be done, can be applied, yes, on percentages too. So I won't go into detail with percentages with the letter spacing, but here, here with the pixel means here we are seeing the 16 pixel size, and here I can add the same 16, and it will be like 100%. It is the equal value of 100% that I was previously applying. So if you want more control on the numbers, percentages often result into odd numbers. So we can try our own numbers, like 16 can have 20 line height here, and it, or maybe 22, so it should work fine. So we can experiment. Feel free to experiment with them, because moving forward we will be mostly using the numbers in pixel instead of percentages, because the numbers give us more control. Next we have widows. So in typography, there are two terms actually, widows and orphans. They are used to describe unwanted stray words on line of text. Widows refer to the single words at the end of the paragraph that are positioned at the beginning of the next line, just like this. Orphans, on the other hand, refer to the first word or the line of the paragraph that appears alone at the bottom of a page or even a column when the rest of the paragraph appears on the next. We should avoid both of them as they affect the readability. There is one more thing you need to do, you guys need to know is the Figma app includes all the Google fonts. You will find them here. Select a text layer, and here we have a whole filter for the Google fonts, but only if you have downloaded the app in the in your laptop. However, if you're working in the web app of Figma, you will need to download the font separately, just the way we did in the beginning. And if you like to learn more about these terms, and actually there are a lot more terms, so I have attached a link to Google Font Knowledge in the description. Do check that. Now we will talk about font types. First, we have serifs. The small lines or the strokes attached to the end of the letters are called serifs. We saw them here. So these details, they are called serifs, and not all the typefaces will have them. Serif fonts are often more readable in printed books, as the tiny feet or those tails guide the reader's eye to the next character. However, due to their tiny sizes, they might not always render well on the screens. So the most popular serif typefaces are Time New Romans, Georgia, and Baskerville. And due to their rich history and long-standing use and in the printing books, they evoke a sense of sophistication and trust. Uh, so next we have sans serifs. Here you will see some examples of the serifs, and here we have sans serif. The typeface without stroke and any other element at the bottom or even at the top of the letter is called sans serif. Sans is the French for without. They appear modern, and they have a long history, as the first sans serif was created in 1800. So you might be familiar with Inter, Arial, Roboto, Helvetica, or Tohama, which are compatible with almost any device, but they have been used extensively on web, and some designers say they sort of lack personality. So, but still, when you are not sure as a beginner designer on what type will work for your project, choose any one of these, and at least they would not go wrong with the basic typography rules. Uh, you need to understand a little bit of difference between serif and sans serif. So using a serif font for headings and Sans Serif font for the body text can help create hierarchy and distinction if you want to pair the font. So that's like the one rule of pairing, one and the easiest rule of pairing the fonts, that you have a font for heading which is serif and a sans serif for the body, and you will get amazing hierarchy and distinction between different level of information and making it easier for readers to navigate and comprehend the content. I have compiled display, mono, script, and hand written together as they should be rarely used in UI. First, we have display. I found out about them in exploring poster designs and eventually started seeing them in headings and some designs in the platforms like awards with triple W. Uh, you should avoid using them as a body text as they can be difficult to read on smaller screens, but you can definitely use them for headings. Monospace, as the title suggests, has each letter occupy equal space. They are often and actually mostly used in coding because they can make it easier to spot mistakes by being more readable and easier to scan. They definitely don't have more readability than sans serifs, though. This is important to remember. So common monospace typefaces we know are space mono or courier. Then we have script. Script is very useful in logo design. For example, remember the Coca-Cola logo? Yes, it is a script style type, and they should also be avoided mostly. But if you want to experiment them, consider using them with the headlines, title, and the logos. And if used right, they can evoke quite formal feelings. Handwritten fonts. Well, similar to the script, they mimic human handwriting. You will usually see them in use in by in highlights in during the long text on the marketing pages, just to add a creative flair or to make some content stand out. Next we have choosing fonts. Selecting a typeface for a project can feel like choosing a snack, and then on the top of that you have to select the variations within the type font, which are fonts, of course. So we need to list down the steps which can help us choose one or more fonts for a project. Some of these tables here and here are taken from the content Eric Kennedy has published, and I have also added a link about pairing font article that he wrote in the description. So our first step is choosing fonts. Start with choosing something that is based on internet research or competition or inspiration. Try some type similar to those or even the same ones, and by finding them on Google Fonts or Adobe Fonts or the platforms like Typewolf, then you should test the type of content you're gonna have and finalize one font or even one pair, meaning two fonts, two type. I have made this mistake a lot of times, calling I keep calling font when I'm supposed to call it type. I'm sorry. And so when you have selected typeface, you should have some wireframe screens ready to test the typography. So here, what we are going to do is to look for some inspiration. So there are plenty of ways you can look for inspirations. I'm going to tell you this one. So as a designer, part of your job is to go look for the inspiration. So here I am going to go. and find this this platform, and you can go, this has actually like a lot of pretty examples. You can open all of these. So what you have to do is click F12 or right click and then inspect. Both of these should work, and then you have to click on this arrow and select on anything. So here I am selecting on it, clicking on it. Maybe you can just simply hover over it if needed. It will tell you what font it is using. So you can see in the tooltip it is showing that the font is 116 sized intertight, and you can keep hovering over other details where you want to look for the color, even the color and what font and what size it is being used in. So you can look for all the, like you can open this platform and then inspect this one, and you will see the eh, like this is like you will know what type is being used on a platform that you just like. You can do it on any website, by the way. So here you need to check for these items. These are the tables I mentioned are from Eric Kennedy. So you need some, you know, type for headings, one for body, or maybe you decide to have the third for accent, or maybe all three of them can be one, or maybe you decided to go for body and accent for like same type, but still what you need to do is to check for like if it is legible. So legibility is important in heading, but in body text it is more important because it will have longer text and more information. Headings, since they came in larger sizes, legibility uh, can be covered because of size actually. Then we have the brand. Headings convey the brand and the designing and the detailing and how you remember a platform. Like we just saw the awards and the big headings, they were making it look very prominently designed. Body, yes, because the main purpose of body is to be legible. Brand is not something that we should be like, we shouldn't add a lot of character to it. It already has a purpose, which is to convey a meaningful content to user. The accent part, yes, it is also there for the brand. So accent is, it can be anything on that on a platform. Like we mentioned, the use of script and handwritten text to highlight the parts of the text. Those are part of branding and features. So all of these things, headings, body, and accent, any type you choose, they need to highlight uh, what uh, means what we are trying to sell through our platform. Like they should be related to that. And then we have choosing the body font. So we will particularly talk about choosing the fonts. Sorry, the typeface. Choosing typeface for body. So when selecting body uh, typefaces, uh, the main thing that you should know is that it will have the longer text in the whole platform. It can be used in the documentation, it can be used in the copy of within app text or even the buttons. So we need to consider the legibility uh, for this. And by the way, legibility is something that refers to how it is to distinguish one letter or word from the next. So that is very important for the body font. When working with small text, meaning for 12 sized or 14 size or even 16, uh, such an on website, or we need to or even on mobile, we need to choose a typeface with a larger X height. This helps the letters stay clear and distinct even when we are using it in the smaller sizes. Typeface is designed for screens like they are specifically there are, I'm going to mention some names which are specifically designed for the screens like Georgia, Tohama, and Roboto. They have larger X heights for this particular reason, so they are legible even in 12 and 14 and 16 sizes. When working with the UI design, it is also a good idea to look for the typeface which has an open aperture actually. So here you will see that this half open shape is aperture, and here this is also like this open part of A and this open part of C. So some of these texts will have this closed looking design where this gives you almost close illusion. So do not prefer them over the ones which have the wider aperture. So sorry. Uh, Yeah, right slide now. So we do this to avoid the situations where parts of the letter can start to blur together at smaller screens, smaller sizes, like when we use it in 12 or 14 size, and when we see it in the mobile, it will feel, C will look like O to some people. So we don't want that blurry line in the design. Another particular consideration is choosing type. In choosing type is always availability. So if you're designing for web, you need to know that the default web browser display type by you display the typefaces by calling up fonts from the user's computer. And most users, unlike designers, unfortunately, are likely to have only a few web safe fonts on their computer, such as Arial and Comic Sans. What we do is to use typefaces hosted externally, like the platforms like Google Fonts and Adobe Fonts. If you have a budget, one option is to, of course, buy a full-blown web license for a typeface, but that can be very expensive, actually, like several $1,000 expensive. So that is something we do rarely, of course. Then here is this table in which Eric mentions a few details that you should consider when you are choosing the typeface. So here we know the sans serif. There are a few other words he has listed down. So when you are searching for a typeface, look for these words in its description. So there is one topic we didn't touch in this video is the history of type. It covers like how the text was, you know, how the text styling, this typefaces in different styles like serif and sans serif came over the time period, and how even within the sans serif styling we have different variations like humanist and geometric and every, some other words. So you should look for these words, and they are mostly readable, especially this text or book one. They are made for smaller sizes and uh, to look good, to be legible on smaller sizes. There are some other uh, tips that I want to share with you. This is a mistake. The heading should here be different. Anyways, these are the tips that I want to share with you. Um, so you the in one line. So the screen can be wider for the web. On mobile, it is not a big issue, but on wider screens, let's say on 2K resolution or even 920, we cannot have a text placed from here, a text line placed here to here. So we need there is a character limit of 50 to 75 in one line at maximum for a body text. Understand? I'm talking about body text. The range for 14 and 16 sized text. So when you are in this setup, you should be limiting your copy to a certain limit. So the characters here do not exceed 50 to 75 as we mentioned here. Also, we have talked about the use of more than one font, so, but honestly, in the most of the times, it is a good idea to just simply use one font. Thus, if you want to pair it, okay, let's try two. But it is, if I were to give it a percentage, I will say like 60% it is safe to use one font, one, sorry, typeface, and for let's say 30% it is safe to use two, and for the remaining 10% it is good, or maybe it is okay, or maybe if you can practice and have enough understanding, you can try pairing the three fonts. But there is no necessity to have three fonts paired, and like never. And because they, if they are not paired well, they can cause confusion, and even if they are paired well, they can hinder good user experience. So yeah, limit the typefaces and have consistency. So when you have chosen two uh, typefaces, you need to define some rules. So this one I will be using for my headings, and I will be only using for, let's say, H1 to H4, and maybe I will not use it for H5 and H6. So when you define those rules, you need to follow them so the user is not distracted by these details. Um, and it is totally all right to use one font. It is, there is nothing wrong with that. So your body text should be 16 and 14. And sometimes for the text heavy platforms like Medium, we have Medium or even IXDF, it will be okay to go up to 18 and even 20 pixels, because there is like a lot of text, and even in the newspapers design, we will need a bit larger uh, body fonts like 18 or 20. And the line height, as we mentioned, is for body text, it is good for 120 to 160. Actually, 150 is good, but I have noticed and played around up till 160, and sometimes there are fonts that require 160% of the line height. And headings, of course, will have tighter, and we have the range from 80% to 120. And of course, they are not the hard rules. You need to test it the way we tested in initially, that how the box should not exceed, so be smaller than the vertical area that is needed by the font and those details. When should we choose the part where we mentioned you should be okay with pairing the font. So when there is a lot of any website that is text heavy, content heavy, we can have multiple fonts. By multiple, I mean two, okay, or three in very rare cases, of course. There is one more quick check you should do before finalizing a type for the project, which is to do a history check. So basically, some of the types are, of course, older than you, and they might have some associations with, let's say, some wars and some political problems. And for example, there is a font like it is spelled Fewtte and Fraktur. It is some German word, and it was designed by German, of course, in 19th century to reference a handwriting style from Renaissance period, and but it was used when Nazis came, and people just stopped using them because of its association with Nazism, and we stopped using it till 2000. So you want to make sure the history of the font doesn't affect the meaning of what you're trying to convey in the brand. So I would encourage you to read about the fall of Comic Sans too. So, and yep, then of course we have to talk about a little about pairing fonts. Honestly, this is something that requires a lot of observation and practice. As a beginner, you look for instances where two or more fonts are paired and practice just using them. The same fonts, same scale, just try using them and notice what makes them a good pairing, and eventually you will gain understanding of creating a pair for yourself. You don't need to hurry yourself for doing it in the very beginning. So just look for a fine inspiration and use that and practice, and by noticing the details. Just don't steal it 100%. You have to notice the details and try modifying a little bit and see how the scale affects and how those details affect. So if you're choosing more than one typeface for a project, you will need typefaces that complement each other well. Remember that in 70% cases, one typeface is more than enough. But when we are choosing two, you have to select stylistically distinct typefaces. For example, you might want to pair a bold serif typeface, serif with small details at the end for headings, with a clean sans serif typeface, meaning without those edges for the body text. This creates a visual interest and enough contrast, and they complement each other without clashing. So, for example, you can try pairing Georgia, which is a serif font for headings, with Arial with sans serif typeface for body font. Georgia is classic style, and Arial has modern look, and it has enough contrast to, give it a very balanced look. Then another thing you need to do is ensure that the typefaces share similar proportions and characteristics. So look for the typefaces that have similar X heights or letter shapes to maintain the cohesive look. For example, try pairing Helvetica for the heading with Georgia for body text as Medium does. So Medium is the platform. It does it it is a heavy text heavy website. You can also pair um, two sans serifs like Montserrat, which is geometric sans serif for headings, and Open Sans, which is a humanist sans serif for body text. Both are sans serif but have a different style. They work very well together. And last but not the least, the key is to pairing is to test on different sizes and screens to ensure they convey the brand and meaning and are still eligible. Now we have finally arrived at type scale. There are two separate ways we deal with the type scale in, mobile design and a web design, which is like web design is where we need the responsive scale. So let's let's look at something first actually. So this is the platform which is typescale.com, and there is another page that I have opened, material design, and in which I am at typography system, and within it I am in the type system. So you just need to write material design 2, and in the search you need to type the type system. It will take you to this page and you give it a read. It has like a lot of good content and everything. So first we are here on the type scale. So if we look at this website or even in this material design one, we see like huge headings actually here, something like this. So it will have by default, we when we arrive here, it will have some of these options like perfect 4, augmented, perfect fifth, or golden. And you will read a lot actually about using the golden ratio or stuff. And you see, like imagine you are working on a mobile application and you see these headings and you're like, how I'm gonna use these? So that's actually a right question. So we even in the here, look at this. So this is a huge design heading, and look at the size. It is 96. This is the whole scale they have made. The heading one comes in 96. Even if I skip this, the second one is also 60. So let's try actually. You know what? Let me show you what I'm talking about by saying it is huge. So I'm gonna use a small screen, which is this normal iPhone 14. I'm gonna bring this heading of mine within this page and look at this, it is 72. So if I want to have hospitals near you. That's that just looks stupid. Even if I try this, why are we wasting this much space? So let's try 60, still bigger. Let's try 48, still big. Let's try 40. So you see, I'm just using a basic inter font. 40. Honestly, it is still big, but it is acceptable if I want to go with this design. So this is how, this is why we cannot use these in the mobile design. We can, of course, use them in web. We will see that, but yeah, we have this situation. We cannot use the perfect fourth to this one. So what we can do, so I have so what happens is that so for mobile, so I've actually had this category. So here you see minor second and major second, and then we have minor third and then major third, and then these. So these are low contrast scales. These two, the third ones, they are medium contrast, and they are, of course, huge contrast or high contrast actually. So these two are actually useless. Let's see why. So you see, if I choose this as a heading, by the way, I will need to switch. This has REM rem. I want to go with PX because that's what I'm using in my Figma. So here you see H1 is 24 and the next one is 22. Then if I were to say, I will say it's a difference of 2 points. Uh, it's not noticeable if I place it right next to each other, or even try to create a hierarchy using this scale. So the low contrast, meaning these minor second and major second, both of them don't have enough contrast to, be used in our platform. So for mobile design, I prefer minor third and major third, which are medium contrast scales. They have noticeable difference, and I've tried experimenting with all of these. I would encourage you that you do with, all of these and see what happens in the mobile screen and on the web screen. So high contrast scales are really good actually. They they give us pretty design like this, but not in mobile, of course. They do it in the landing pages and the marketing pages. So we should try experimenting with them over there. But within the web app itself, like on dashboard stuff, these two, like minor third and major third, they should be good with a web within the web app platforms. Additionally, I have also always found actually myself experimenting with the custom scales for mobile design. uh, they work actually better, and you understand the use, like how we have to do things like a little bit better. So I'm going to share some stuff that is very useful by creating a custom scale. So custom means beyond these ratios. So you see 1.067, this is the number they are multiplying to make the next number. So we are just going to go and do something custom. So what helped me with knowing these custom scales was to know what limits I cannot cross, and so that I'm going to share those with you. And I tested with them using these, and there are like whole bunch of videos on YouTube I watched, and some of them were really useful, and people were sharing their own scales. And there are like books that UI books you can read. So yeah, like custom scales are pretty common. That's my point. And the way you test is this, that you're gonna pick up your screen, you're gonna pick your font, and you're gonna see which works for you. So you're gonna see, okay, bold, yeah, I'm gonna work on 100% so you know how noticeable this is. So I'm gonna try different sizes and see which one is working for my particular screen. And then I'm gonna place all my elements here and to see if it works or not, and then eventually picking the right number around there. So this is an example of the mobile font that I made. So here I have four headings. Basically there are 6 headings out there. But in mobile design, honestly, when you are a beginner, there is no need for H5 and H6. They're rarely used, and in fact, you can work fine without them. So, 4 headings, and then there are 3 body sizes. You are good with 2, even like body 1 and body 2. You should be good, but if you want to introduce captions at any point, you will need the body 3. And labels and buttons, of course, I separated them to show what can be done. And initially you can just apply the body base size on these, or maybe the bigger one, whichever you decide, and then you keep following that rule. But so far I have placed it separately, so I can explain some points here. The other part that you should be, clear about is that this these naming conventions, and you will find them different in different platforms. Sometimes in coding, for example, it is called paragraph. So I'm just calling it body. And heading 1 is often called title. So yeah, you will run into different vocabulary for creating the scale. Don't get confused. It's all about the usage. So for there's the things that you need to know are that first you need to pick up your body size. First you need to pick up your body base size. So I want all of my important text and the longer text to be in 14 size. That's what I decided. Just notice this. uh, just I wrote this down, and I figured I wanted 14, and for the text I'm using, it's working fine. It is readable at 100%, and I want to use this. So the first number I have written down the size. The second number is the line height, which I have applied on it. And then we have the letter spacing. So these three things you need to figure out when you are finalizing something. So I have done that. Let me quickly show you how I want to do this. So here I was in this screen, in this page. So here you have to do is just simply just apply the size you want, and then actually what helps you is to just apply auto and see what is the automatically in automatic height it has applied. It is 17. So I am going to enter, and not enter like this, enter, and type something. And again at 15, at 100%, I'm going to see if it is reasonably readable. Of course it is not. So I'm going to increase that. So instead of 17, which was odd number, I was going to change it. I'm going to make it 20 and see if this is readable and if it has any overlap or anything in it. So for body text, you need to make sure that you are testing it with more than one lines, because line height is very important there. So I think 20 is good. You can also experiment with 22 if the 20 doesn't work for your particular text. So yeah, this is how we tested it. And then when we have tested it and we have applied these details manually, I am just gonna go here and I am gonna click here, and I want to save it like this, body 02. So it, like, that's the name that I wanted I want for it. And then since you see I have selected regular, I'm gonna give it regular name. Slash is what defines the folder or grouping. So if you have more than one weights of body size, you will be able to arrange them in one place by like having regular and bold at one place. So here you will press enter, and it will be save on the side. And after you click on the right side, and actually the scale is not built here in this file. So what you, when you select a layer, you will be able to see a whole list of items that you can apply on that, like heading 1. This is a separate scale, by the way, so you shouldn't confuse it with this one. This is made for the my presentation that I am creating with it. Like I'm showing you here these bigger headings and stuff. But yeah, anyways, that's is how you save and then apply the font. Now, so I chose this text. So we are talking about, just a reminder, we are talking about custom type scale creation. Now we need one font, body font, which can be 14 or 16 depending on what font you are choosing. And then you want a little bigger, which is 2 point bigger than that. In my case, it will be 16. And then the third one will be 2 points smaller than this, which is 12 in my case. So if I decided to choose this one as 16, the top one will be 18 and the smaller one will be probably 13 or 14. So 2 or 3 point difference is more than enough depending on what body scale or you are, what a type you have chosen, and how it is, showing you the hierarchy. So that's we have here. So we have decided the body font. So body sizes, they range from 12 pixel to 20. Since we only need 2 or 3 sizes in body fonts, and it depends on how readable the font is, we just choose any three with the difference of two or three. Three is something like you can try. In some fonts, honestly, I've run into a situation where I needed 12 and then 15 and then 18 to show the hierarchy. Yeah, that's like 2 and 3 is the biggest difference you can go, and three is the rare. Three is rare. Since like, why do we need these two fonts? So when is the base one? One sometimes we need to show something important. We need a bigger one, and the secondary level text is very important. Like we run into it a lot, so we need at least one variation. So one smaller is must than our any base size that we have chosen. So normally in all of my projects, the scale is 12, 14, and 16. But if I am creating a portfolio website, once I was creating it, and the platform owner, the client, he wanted it to be more text heavy, like he wanted to talk about things with projects. So then we ran into the issue where we wanted 18 and 20 pixel size. Honestly, 12, 14, 16 is not the like perfect standard. I like just even numbers. You can also choose 13, 15, and 17 if you feel like doing that to yourself. No worries in that. And also, you need to understand that as smaller jumps between the font sizes on the lower side of the scale, they are noticeable by 2 points. But as we go up, we need to have bigger jumps. So because you don't want to uh, waste. So if your heading is 40 and 42, you don't want which size you want, because that is not even noticeable. Now for the headings. Here, the s- the jump from the biggest body size, which is here, and from this is mostly two. Honestly, 2 to 4, the first jump 2 to 4 is good, but after that the difference should be at least 4 to 6 points. So the when you create a hierarchy on screen, it is noticeable. So here you see from 16 I have jumped 6 points, and then 6 points, and then another 6 points. Some fonts like Sans Serif, actually they work fine with even 4 pixels too, but we should not be making it smaller than 4 pixel. And even so, there is one more detail in the mobile design, that the biggest heading for the mobile design should not go outside 30 to 40 pixel range. Like it should never be like 48 or something. We have tried that a few minutes back and see that we don't have much space on the screen. So the range is 30 to 40. So yeah, so if you are here, like you have list, so honestly there is one more detail. So this um ideally this difference should increase. So here but the jump is 2 point, here we could use 20, and then here we could go 30, and then here we could go 38. But it's like if we it is creating enough contrast by 444 jump, it should be good. Other than that, we can increase by 1 or 2 points with the each jump as we go up. Also, your body text. should never be smaller than 12 pixel. We have one situation where we apply 10 pixel, which is the bottom navigation text, where we have five icons and all five of them require text with them. That's the only place you will use 10 pixel in bold. It has to be bold to be for it to be readable. Other than that, no need to go below 20, sorry, 12 pixel. People won't be able to read that. And also in this type scale, you see there are points 47.78, and these you just round it off to the good even number. So it can easily be called 48 and give you peace to your heart. And next, like that's one way of creating the custom scale for your mobile. But then we have responsive typography. So if I go to this screen, so this is mobile, and I am using these two headings here. Let's create some boxes to show the hospitals. So this is the hospital. Maybe this, let's say it has a horizontal scroll, and this is famous doctor. And again, this is to show that. So you see, this is a screen which is 428 in width. Now I am bringing a tablet size screen which is 744, a little bigger. And then I'm also bringing another screen which is desktop, and it is 1440. Now I need to place this content on this screen and this screen. So we can see that there is a lot of space. We probably will have more options placed here. Even the cards will be wider and bigger. And for this one, we will, like, right now cards are not the focus, but you see that we have a lot of space and we need to use it. We can't just leave it empty. And of course, it is very fun to design for on the larger screens because we have a lot of real estate. So here, what we can do is in the mobile 30 worked fine, but in tab we might want to try 36. Actually, yeah, it looks good. And then in more bigger screen, we want to try, let's say, 44 with right spacing, of course. But my point is that this is the concept of responsive platform, that for mobile screens we have with lesser space, and we need to adjust things on that space, so the typography cannot go beyond a certain size. So that's why I said that the heading one on the top heading, the biggest one heading, should not be outside 30 to 40 pixel range. But there is no limit for the with the here for on the web. And as you have seen in the actual scales here, the heading one is actually 96. And even in the different scale, that if I use in like perfect 4, the first heading is 90. So yep, you see what, like even in the major third one we have 62. So we can go bigger on the larger one. So what exactly we should do here, like how do we create responsive scale? So there are two approaches to adjusting font sizes to different breakpoints. You can read more about breakpoints by searching the breakpoints here, just to see what ranges we are supposed to be in, and which sizes are mobile and then tab and the web, if in case you're not familiar with that. But here, what we have to do, what we can do, we can start from the mobile or we can start from the web. It's your choice. We can. So here in my example, I have made something from web for web, and I have just chosen the major third drop down from here, major third, and I have used this scale to create this size. So what two methods we can use to scale this down? One, keeping the scale consistent. The scale stays consistent, meaning we keep the values, we just skip a few of them. I'll tell you how. And then uh, uh, we change the, like, by that, we change the base font for each breakpoint. Like if for web we have the size 20, for mobile we might have 20, 16 pixel base font. The other way is keeping the base font consistent, means the typography for the body size will stay consistent from for all screens, but the scale on the top will be adjusted. So let's try the first version, the first one where we are keeping the scale consistent. So notice the values 62, 48, and so on, and up to P3 we have 16. Now, when I want to go to tablet, I just skipped this one detail, like 62. My H2 became H1, H3 became H2. So all by skipping it, I just pushed everything here. I just needed to add H6, like because this place became empty. So I just added that. And then for P1, here I have 20, 18 and 16, and I shifted that up. 20 was skipped and it became 16, 18, 16 and 14. And by the time I arrived on the third breakpoint, I have skipped the second value, which was this one, and here it was the first one. So now this 40 became this, and now by the time I arrived at 8 6, I added another value which is now equal to HP1. It shouldn't be an issue in mobile. Don't worry about this. And then now my P1 has become 16 and P3 has become 13. We need to keep in mind that by creating this setup, we don't cross that limit of, having a body size which is smaller than 12. We don't want that. So you should, like while planning the body text or paragraph text, P here stands for paragraph, you should uh, consider that, like what sizes we will be using. So yeah, this is how we just created a responsive typography scale where the scale is consistent, or the values are there, but we just change the base font size, mean we just skipped one value and push the scale on the top. Another way, the second way that we talked about, is just to keep the font size, the body font size, the base one consistent, and by adjusting the scale on the top. So here below the line, the values will stay same. Just notice that these values are same. These values are same. Now on the top, I have manually adjusted how things will work on different screens by placing them. So in this case, uh, some values probably are getting picked from here based on what design I had in mind, and like I did some experimentation and stuff, but still this was the scale that I picked up from major third. What was the name? Yeah, major third. And then I adjusted that by just placing them the headings, that okay, this is what I want. And by the time I came here, these values were like adjusted manually, and some of them are equal, even equal, like for H3 the tablet and mobile was working fine, and even in 32. So it is more toward custom by testing each of these sizes and seeing like what works, and not touching this section, because if honestly 16 pixel font works fine on the mobile, and if we keep the body size 16, it works fine on the web too. So we are in the good spot. Anyway, so we have created the font here. Now, the unfortunately work doesn't stop here. So first I need to tell you that I have also attached some material design links at the bottom, and also the link of the type scale platform I was using, and two other actually, the modular scale and the grid lover. Uh, you should give it a try. They're like let you experiment with the scales. And now the work has not stopped. We have to, unfortunately, the task needs some more detailing, that we need to actually style this text. So this is our next task. When these are the 9 points that we will be using to style our text. I'll give you a walkthrough of what these are, and then we'll eventually apply them to the scale and then see how things are going to work. So first we have the font size. We have talked about the font size, and this is the first thing that you use to create the actual scale using those type scale website or even the material design website. So the height of typeface is measured in point size, and it is called points, and that's why when I was here, I like you can select points and you can also select pixels. These two should work. Rem is good, actually. It works, it helps you uh w- it helps you when you're working with the developers, but honestly it's a mess. You can give it a read, but there is no obligation to apply it on the web at this point when you are starting to learn. um, so in the start, we talked about the metal era, where we had the letter forms that could not be scaled dynamically, and that's why here it is. There is something really interesting. So if I click on this text, it has some certain options which which jump like 60. After 16 we have 20, then 24, then 32, and then we have these certain options, and these are there because we couldn't have all other options which are skipped be- because it was expensive to create those lead stencils. So now we can of course create like digital platforms. We can enter manual values, but that is some interesting detail to know. uh, Yep, actually, that's pretty much on the font size. Then we have the light height, line height. We have talked about it in detail. You just need to remember. So this basically is revising all the things that we can do with the text. This slide is all about that. So the safe range is 80 to 120 for the headings and 120 to 160 for the body text. And the safest rule to remember is that the content of two lines should not overlap and cause hindrance during the readability. Then we have there is one more detail that you will find when you are exploring these topics, that this is horizontal grid or baseline grid, which is this. So you will see people using this layout and using rows and applying something like these lines. Yeah, something like this, and they will tell you that the typography should be applied on this, is aligned and everything. There is no need for this. The maximum thing that you need to do is that one detail that I told you, that when you have applied a size, instead of going on percentage, choose a number. So here by default it is auto, and I am looking at the height, which is 36. If it is even number, it should be good. If it is a heading, honestly, we are in sweet spot. Maximum you can try is to just keep it within the multiple of fours and make sure the box is not bigger than the font. So 36 is actually working fine for the heading. So I'm going to keep that value manually without the percentage. And when I save, this will be saved. So that's the maximum you need to do. There is no need to add these horizontal, and there is another name for this, the baseline grid. So don't, it's a if your design is bad, it is not going to be fixed by aligning your text and spacing them vertically like this. So that's don't try it. Feel free to explore that, but I've not found it useful. Next, we have the letter spacing. We have talked about it. You see, if the font you chose is a very good, well designed, and good one, it will not require in the adjustment of the letter spacing on normal size text like for the body. But for the larger text, we probably will need it. So the safe limit we have is the -2 to +2. So here if you check on this, they're using the roboto, and you will see the letter spacing for the bigger heading base, since the big heading is very big, 96. So they have made it tighter, and here they have tried to make it a bit wider. So this is point 0.1 means 0.10%, and sorry, point 0.1 actually. So yeah, a little range. So maximum -2 and +2. anything beyond that, it will be too much and it will cause problem uh, when the user is reading. Why and when you will need the letter spacing is basically when you are using very large headings, they will require minus values because so it is readable. The other places when you are using caps, the capital letters, they are not very common. So introducing them will require some increase in the letter spacing. If you change the case, case mean make it all caps. Uh, it's sometimes I'll show you actually. So here at 100% we have this and I am just gonna make it all big. So this text, and when this does not have any what do you say, like case applied on it, it is taking lesser space and user don't actually read all the words. They are used to of this type of typing. In fact, the sentence case where the only the first letter is capital, so they're just skipping the spellings, but here we are forcing them to actually read all the text. And so if they are placed, they are away from each other, we might want to bring the letters closer. So we'll try -1. Actually, -1 actually works fine here. So yeah, when you are using caps, you will need the minus value. Or in the smaller text, this is for the headings actually. So if you are using smaller text, so let's say I'm using 12, and for 12 I am trying to have all caps. Now it is not readable, so we might want to introduce some positive spacing. So let's make +1, and now it is readable. So yeah, this is the experimentation you can do with letter spacing. Paragraph spacing. So, okay, as a designer, we need to add some spaces and formatting for the paragraphs because in the longer text, nobody likes to read them. Uh, so we need to distinguish and make the text scannable. And you see, paragraphs help us break long content into logical sections. In old days, we used to do this thing. Let me bring a copy here. I want to bring some content. Yep, here. Let's actually copy this paragraph, please. Yep, here. So if I apply this and make it 16, and I'm gonna paste it, maybe make it regular, and maybe fix it within the screen, within the readable limit. So previously, we used to do it to have some space in the start. We call it indent. So we used to have it when the new paragraph started like this. We could just simply have my laptop is tired. So we could just simply have this, and there won't be any much spacing required, and it will be clear that the new paragraph has started from here. Sorry, my control. Okay, it's not working. Sorry, I need to take it to the next screen. But yeah, the next paragraph used to have like some spacing in the beginning. Honestly, we don't do that anywhere in the website. I've seen it very rarely. So what we are gonna do is experiment with the paragraph spacing. So I'm gonna go in the more details. Right, this is the tuning icon here, and here we have option of paragraph spacing. So uh the wcag recommends, which is the platforms which handles the accessibility and stuff, recommends that the paragraph spacing should be at least 1.5 times larger than the regular line spacing, meaning which is So line spacing I here we have is 120. So let's make it easy. But that's why I said I won't be using the percentages. There are a lot of calculation required. So this is 16. This we want line height to be 20. Now here the paragraph spacing, we want it to be 1.5%. So that is 150% of this. So let's try making it at least 12 is 20 and see what happens. So I'm gonna go and enter here to see what, yeah. So here in Figma, how it calculates it, that it applies the line height, and in addition to that, it has applied another 20 points to show the paragraph spacing. I guess that's what it is, because it is showing a whole line space here, which is too much. So I'm gonna go and this is my size 16. Actually, 16 is fine. I think I will have to explore that 1.5 part of it, because, in my opinion, 1.16 is working fine. Let's go quickly check what's medium is doing. Medium. So medium is the platform we are mentioning for the content heavy setup. And let's open the first one. Yeah, they are showing that they are showing long paragraph spacing and the bullet list spacing. So I think we are good with that. Like 1 point, it just looked weird in our case when we have to use it with like a lesser content places. So if we do go at least keep the line height to equal to this. Yeah, I'm not liking it, but yeah, that's what the rule says. I would probably try to keep it somewhere around 20, where it is noticeable gap, but it's not too much. But let's follow the rule of wcag, which is 1.5 times of the size. So probably 20 or 24 is what we should go for. Okay. Um, Yeah, VCAC also is telling me here that the technique that having a whole blank line between the paragraphs, so it is easy to distinguish from the regular line break, and the people who have cognitive and visual disabilities, they will find it hard to track the text when there is not enough space between the lines and paragraphs. So I guess here we are with this. Then we have the alignments. As a beginner designer, one mistake we all do. I did this, and I don't, God knows what is the reason. We just love using center aligned text. I did it myself. I had to fix my whole project when I got the feedback with that. So don't align anything centered that is longer than 3 lines. Simple rule. So, and mostly in the marketing pages, center alignment works. And if I were to divide it in percentage to make you understand how many times we will be using the center line is, out of 100% in English text, we will be using only 10 to 15% times the center alignment. There is no other like the remaining time we will be using the the normal left line text. So that's how it is we uh, uh, so don't use the center line text anyways. Any, and the next thing is, don't use the justify alignment. I know we all love the justify alignment, at least most of us do, because in books we have seen it and it makes the whole beautiful box and everything. Uh, that is very hard to read for the people, and with who have some disabilities. It's just it's for them, it just makes a mess. And with responsiveness actually, so this is what we are talking about. So here we have justified text. It creates a whole box, which is good. But on smaller screens, it will become like this, on this. So with responsiveness, it is, you notice the space of the words, it is changed between the words, it is changing to make that, square box. So we are breaking all the rules we have, learned so far about the spacing and stuff and the control over it, just because we wanted this box. So yeah, avoid this in the digital design. I have only honestly found it useful in book printing. It just looks lovely in the books printing. So use right alignment, left alignment normally in English, and only use it in the right side of when you are working with the tables, and within tables you need to add the numbers. Um, Next we have font weights. So you should choose a font which has at least five of these variations. It should at least have regular and plus four others. So these are the weights in which they come in. So bold is what we are going to be using as to show hierarchy. But as a designer, I found that most common fonts like Montserrat and even uh, here, if I apply Lotto, so Lotto has very nice bold, but Inter has very fat bold. So I'll probably prefer to go with semi bold. So these are some decisions you might take with the most commonly used fonts where bold is very overbearing. So you might want to choose semi bold over bold in those cases. And where do we use the bold weight? Headings, secondary headings, and even highlighting something. And do not use anything that is below regular. They look very cute, light, extra light and thing. Trust me, I know. But don't use them because on screens they are not going on the screens with smaller, lesser resolution. They are not going to show, and we are here for the user experience. And you can also use italics. Actually, do I have a separate section for italics? No, I don't. So you can also use italics. They create a secondary level emphasis. However, use them wisely as the primary purpose of having italics in coding is to add emphasis and to introduce foreign words. So if your platform is using frequently using these emphasis element and introducing foreign elements like words from different languages or some things like that, uh, don't use italic for anything else then, so it prevents the conflict. But if you are not using foreign letters, italic can add style. And yeah, and then there is an option like in the fonts, like we're talking about fonts, so I want to mention a formatting option which is strike through. Only use it to show discounts so far. So if you want to, or also yes, if you are creating a design for history log where you have to show the differences between the text how it was changed, you probably want to show the comparison. And yeah, another thing is that you should know about the weight is this. So when you are creating a hierarchy, so let's do this. I have a 16 size font and I have added regular. Now I want to add something on the top of it, which is uh, bold. So next option I have is medium. It it has the difference, but it doesn't create any hierarchy. It looks like a mistake actually. So your design should be intentional. It shouldn't look like a mistake. So we definitely need to skip medium. So let's try semi bold. So this is what we are talking about. So in the using weights, always skip one weight, at least one. If you have a lot of options like this, it means the variation is a little more like there are more than five variations. So we'll probably go with bold. And for even for the links, if I want to create a third variation of the font, yeah, it's a font, I probably will go with semi bold and make it underlined. So three weights we are using because they both will be paired differently, like these two, and this needs to be highlighted during this during the flow of regular font paragraph. But yeah, always skip a weight when you are creating the hierarchy, and that you can do when you have chosen a font which has more at least five weights. And how we can do this, by the way, in the this section when we were searching for the fonts, Here we had the option to only show the number of styles, which had like 5 styles. So then the results will have something which the results will show us the options where there are at least 5 weights or more. Then we have the case normal. You use a normal sentence case where the first letter is bigger. Uh, at most of the places, the safest bet. Any text longer than 2 3 words written in the all caps section will look like that you are yelling at them. So this is the sentence case. First letter is bigger. When the full stop comes after that, the first letter is bigger. Now I'm gonna make this like this, and here, look at this. So if I make it all caps, the text is yelling at you. You don't want that. So you can use the all caps on the headings or highlighting something uh, or smaller text. So don't use all caps on the longer sentences and the full sentences because user can't do the reading on with full sentences in all caps. It happens because people don't read letter by letter, as we mentioned earlier, but rather they recognize the sending and descending words outlined. All caps don't let the readers do that. They force user to read each word, and it is annoying. And one more important detail is that most screen readers that help people with accessibility spell out the text in all caps letter by letter, leading to a terrible user experience. So they won't say a word, they instead will start reading it letter by letter. Another case we know is the title case that is used as the name suggests in the titles and the heading. It has the first letter of the heading. So let's try this. So this is what we are talking about here. We can hover over it and see this is the title case. We have typed it like this, but even if I try to make it shorter, it will type the first word bigger. So it has the first letter of the heading bigger, and all the major words are capitalized. So that's the interesting part. So what happens is uh, of Islamabad. Sorry, not Islamabad. So, title case means all the important words, famous, doctors, and Islamabad, they will be capital, like as a first letter. Of is not a very important word, so like not a major word. It is of course important, but it won't have the first letter capital. There are some discussions around this setup, but yeah, this is the standard English rule, so I follow this one. And sometimes we as a designer chooses to apply the title case on, like, let's say h1 2 and 3, and for the rest of the heading we try to use the simpler sentence case because they work closely with the body text. So it's just that there are some decisions you can take. Also, the title case can also be applied on buttons, like the buttons can have this setup. Apply now. So apply is A is capital, N is capital. So also on the links and yep, active elements. Then we have lowercase. Lowercase is rarely used. What is lowercase actually? This. I've never seen it in use in microcopy, of course. I've seen it used in the graphic design and the poster design, not in UI design. Okay. So while I was studying about the typography, I learned that you can use it to as a part of specific branding or design theme, which is pretty weird in UI, but feel free to explore that. I can imagine being used in the marketing side where we have to highlight or maybe make the headings in only lowercase, so grab the user's attention. Okay, why they are doing it, or in a way, but definitely not within the app because it will ruin the user experience. So yep. Next we have the color. So we have another full video on the color. We have talked about tinted grays and the dark grays to use in the headings. Colored headings rarely look good. Let's try them. This is black. This is red tinted gray. let's say this is a heading. Uh, on the white background, this looks weird. Maybe we want to make it like this, like have a lot of tint of red and make it rather very dark, like the way we talked about in the design, in the color video. But we, to make this work, or even this work, like these colored, maybe in a beautiful one, they are ugly colors right now I'm choosing, but yeah, to make this work you need to do a lot of practice. So in beginning, I'll say you avoid that. So on the lighter, by the way, these headings will work on the lighter background, so keep that in mind too. hmm. Color. How else we use the color in the typography? We can also use it to highlight some part of the text, like we are when you are doing search and user types something, we highlight the matching text in the result. That's one example. But yeah, we can use the color to highlight the text, and also color is used to create the hierarchy. So if this is the heading and this is the supporting text, we will have this one in a regular size. We'll probably also mess up with the size, but the another thing we will do is to use color to create the hierarchy. So for the supporting text or subtext. Then we have underline. Do not use underline for anything other than the link, because that's the standard link. Open a new page. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the styling text. Now let's actually do that. So here I'm going to use this one, and I am going to, we are going to apply these things, like all these styling elements, to actually make it work to it before we actually save it here in the platform. So headings, right now, all of these are in regular setup. So what we want to do is we want to make it probably bold or semi-bold. So this is something like I am telling you outside uh, the actual design. You can actually go and practice on the design. So let me, I'll come back to show you. Yep. So this is what happens if I use that same scale here, like no bold, nothing. So what we have to do is actually create the hierarchy using these rules that we learned here. So font size we have already applied. Now we have to apply the, what was the second step? Yeah, the line height. So line height, we also talked about it. Then we need to figure out that the box should be bigger than the font. So for this particular case, that's not the case. So I'll make this maybe 44. So the box is bigger. And I like we're going to do this to all of these layers. Then the next step we have is letter spacing. So again, zoom it to 100% and see if this needs any negative space. Right now it doesn't, but this definitely needs to be bold. All of these, and I don't like this in pure bold, so I'm gonna apply semi bold. No, bold good, bold looks good. And then we have paragraph spacing. Headings don't need paragraph spacing because we won't be writing, a whole bunch of paragraph in the size, but the body text will need this. So I'm gonna see, I have 16 and 22, and given that practice that we did a few minutes back, I'm gonna use that same line height to at least have 100% line height here, and I'm gonna do this to all of my body text, body 1, 2, 3. So this has 16, so I'm gonna make it 16. Next we have alignment. So all of these text needs to be aligned in the this setup. So uh, when we save here, this text setup, like all of these information that we are like applying here, will be saved. I think alignment doesn't get saved. Let me see. I totally forgot about it. So yeah, this can be overwritten. So we don't need to worry about that. This we can save, adjust later. And the next thing we have is case. So we want to experiment where we want to use the larger case. So in buttons, I want to have all caps. And I also want it to be a little bold. So let's go with semi bold. When I made it semi bold, it feels like this is too close. So I'm going to add letter spacing of 1. Sweet. So now we applied the case. The color is for hierarchy when we will actually use it, the font, like body 1, we will define some rule that body 1 will be darker, and when the secondary text or body 2 is paired with body 1, that comes in a different and lighter color. So that's where the color will come in use. The underline is this. So if we want to introduce links, we'll probably have link, and we have underline setting on it. And yeah, this is how we introduce links. This is the 10th point we added. This has same settings as this. Now the weight part we skipped. Actually, we didn't skip, but we need to apply in more detail. So for the headings, in the most cases, like in 90% cases, one weight of heading H1 should work fine. In the complex design, actually by a designer, honestly, when I was taking a class, like a mentor session, I saw him use that body text in bold and in regular, and he used it very wisely, like like using the text like this. So famous doctors, so this is how it was written, let's say, and famous was regular, and doctors was like this. So this is one example, but he was using the headings very creatively. But I realize not all places can handle it, but if you want to, you will need to add the variation. So I'm gonna make a copy and remove this. So here, so if you want to have this setup, like heading the way I just showed you how a mentor of mine was using, so you can have another copy of it and make it regular, and save it separately. So I don't want to do this for this video. The other thing is that we must do is this. So body 1 is the regular. Make sense? This base is also regular, and this is also regular. Now we need to have them at least in 3 variations. That depends what kind of design you are choosing, but let's say we need it in at least bold. So I'm gonna save it, apply bold. So what bold we apply? So that's our decision. Let's go with pure bold. Now another version that I need is that this body, like the design I am planning, while have links within the body text, long paragraphs. So I want underlined text. So underline, maybe I can call it link actually. So this body, when it will have like separate links, I want it to be in same size but underlined, and maybe I want to control this underline a little better using Figma. Yeah, I did that. So I need this body. I decided that I will need my body text in 3 sizes. I can do that. I will need to do this. Same thing with the body 1, 2, and 3. All three of them should at least have 3 variations. One time I did run into a situation where I needed caps too, like the fourth variation. So I needed this caps. So I just gonna apply this, and then you see this looks normal, but the same bold does not look good with all caps. So I'm gonna drop a little weight from it, and yep. So this is how, like, I added 4 variations, 4 variations of my body 1 text, and I should do it with body 2 and body 3. So that's the detail that you will need in your type scale. So having at least 4 headings, 3 body text in at least, each of them should at least be in 3 weights. that you should have in the sides in the side. So when you start saving them again, I should show you again. So when you click on it, you can call it even like I just selected the layer with when all of these has been applied. I'm gonna apply create the style by pressing by clicking the plus, and here I can call it h1 or maybe heading 1 and just enter. And here you see h1 is saved, but for the body you can simply select the layer, like you can do it h2 h3 h4, and then you have body 01 in regular size, the slash with make the grouping and enter. Then yeah, I'm just copying these names. Bold. Now look at this, how he grouped it, like the Figma grouped it regular and bold under this folder of body one. So all the variations will be compiled in one place. So you should be able to create these variations. Body 01, body 02, and body 03. Now this part we didn't talk much about is, so usually the standard type scale is good, but if you look at this, you see some other details they have added, and they like the subtitles, and sometimes we need to introduce quotations and they will have separate styling. We can style them separately and have them as an actual level in the typography scale. So don't worry about what else you can add. Feel free to add anything that is needed at this point. But one thing that you should know is that there can be a lot of things that we just separate. So this is the base we set up, and then on the top of this setup, using Figma variables, you can further apply into different elements. Like all the small sized buttons will have separate size of the typography, and probably the different size for the medium sized button. So this is the base. That's what you should know. You can build anything on the top of this. So yep, this is how we created all the typography. Now let's apply that. So let's say, like, how do you apply that? So let's say, let me quickly show you. When you have set up um a font, like a type scales on the side, you're just gonna have to click on the layer of the text and go to this, and from here you can select whatever font styling you want to apply. So I want it to be body one regular, so I applied that, and now it has all the settings applied to it. uh, it will be really easy if I go back and update it. All the places that the body one has been applied to will become bigger or smaller as I make the changes. So that's why the styling, saving the style in Figma is easy. So let's apply the actual, like, let's actually apply all these scales and see how they are gonna affect our designs. So when I'm experimenting here, I just added all the text in one size at every place I needed for this product page. So all of this is in one, size, weight, and everything. Now, even before you are figuring out your scale, or even after, when you have to figure out which item should be in what size, you just need to experiment first. Don't worry about the technicalities in the beginning on how and where uh, heading 2 should be or heading 1 should be. You see, I didn't go in those details in this video because this is aimed for the beginners, and that confuses the user. Where should I apply this? So you need to just focus on creating the hierarchy. So I'm gonna go analyze the screen. This is heading. Heading I know should be bold. So if I make it bold, we probably want to make it a little bigger, because when we were learning about the headings, we figured that a few points, it should be few points bigger than the body. So we know that we should apply that information here. Then in near these icons here, we you see, in if I go to this detail, so if I zoom in, you look at this icon that I'm using. So it is approximately 1.5 or maybe 1.3 points in width, like the stroke. But this particular font is only 1 pixel. So when we are placing them all together, this looks, they both are in same color. but this looks fatter than this text. So we need to fix that. So we shouldn't test the icons which are pre-made um, a lot, because they will that will be a lot of work, and that will mess up our design, like on whole different level. So we need to fix the typography to match that style. Sorry, here. So we probably should increase and fix this the weight of this. And here you see the price needs to stand out, of course, that we want user to know what is the price of this expensive chocolate. And then this detail, this is a secondary detail that user should know when he wants to know, but it shouldn't just take all the attention. So we need to create the hierarchy here. And hmm, here the same issue. This is fat and this is not very fat, so we need to fix that. The copy, the text stroke should be equal to the icon. And then, like, if we like, I'm telling you, all the situations I'm noticing should change are this. Like, even if I make it bigger, this is a little too dark, we probably should reduce the opacity for this one, or make it secondary, like level text. And yeah, the about when we have also talked about the color, so that this is rather darker, so let's try exploring what we can do. So I let me apply all those changes. Yeah, here, actually, I forgot to make it bold. I'm gonna make medium. Medium is good, actually. uh, Parallel to this, I also want to make this medium. Yeah, we're good. Please go away. So yeah, I changed a little, like, I create a hierarchy by changing the color. Okay, we are in good spot so far. But it doesn't look so. If I look at the screen, this is a very expensive uh, chocolate. And usually the expensive stuff is there to represent luxury and stuff. So right now I'm using Inter, which is pretty normal, to the point, and classic, simplest font that that stays in the background. It doesn't have a lot of personality. I want a font with a little more personality. You see, they're using a very fancy font for even their logo. So I am gonna change that. So I just changed that to freight text. It is a paid font. I'm just using as a sample for this video because I couldn't find anything other good looking for this video. Um, and yeah, the also I tried applying the freight text pro here. It was not readable. It only looked good in the headings. So I have applied a free Google font, which is some grotesque font. I forgot the name, but yeah, some grotesque font. I think it was Bree something. So I applied that on all other places, like all of these places which are not heading. And what else we need to do? Yeah, some other detailing we want to do. Yeah, actually, this looked here good here, but I wanted to show you how this affects the readability. So if you are targeting a whole bunch of users, like everyone, or maybe a wide range of in age, uh, so it this probably needs to be a little bigger for it to be readable, but it still looks good. So I have this is the version where I applied the Freight Text Pro. Mm, I like this one better, actually. This has the right personality, but still, if you want to apply, you can do this. And also with this, I am seeing the problem that if I apply the same Freight Pro everywhere, the styling and the numbering is something I don't like, where this aligns the text in a different manners. It has a certain styling, so I don't like that. So what I like in this design that is that the font, the uh, icons, you can improve the icons. Like, this is not in any part of the design just one part of it, like just color or just typography. It is not going to fix everything, so you have to mess up with a few other details. Like here I changed the icons because this one was not looking fancy, it was just a cart, so I applied the more fancier expensive one here. So yep, those are the changes that I did. And another detail is like I made another version here. Hmm. Yep. So here we have another example of applying the copy, applying the font styling and everything. So here I found like this is sort of, what is it actually? Yeah, a blog page. Sorry. So this is a blog page. Here we have a table of content. Here we have a heading and a lot of text. You can see this is a load of text. So I have used Lotto. Nothing wrong with it, but when I'm seeing a lot of Lotto in one place, it looks very dull, and you will hear a lot of designers say that the most commonly used fonts are just too boring because they are overused and you have seen like at them at random places. So one I'm going to use the by the way, I like grotesque, so I have used the grotesque in both of these examples. So grotesque is a type of font. They are very good looking, gorgeous. So I'm just gonna go apply. So yep, I have applied. First, I went ahead and changed mm, the font to Heineken Grotesque, which is a geometric and very good looking font. And the more good thing that I liked about is this, that the punctuation, it handles the punctuations in a very beautiful way. So yeah, you can look at this. The commas are boring in Lotto. Maybe I'm being a little too much about Lotto. Lotto is good. It's not bad. It's just how you can improve the typography of a page that has like a lot of text. So let's give it a personality by changing the font. And also, you notice that from Lotto, like here we were using the standard rule of having 16 sized font. It was not good for this much text. So what I did is increase the size. So from 16 to 20 because we need more readability. Then I need to apply some hierarchy and also some color hierarchy. All of this is in one color, and then some link hierarchy. You see, all of these are colors, links, and we want them to stand out. So let's see how we can do it. And also the paragraph thing that we mentioned, that all of these paragraphs, if on responsive screens, we cannot add, force this much space, so it won't be clear that there are now a new paragraph has started. So we want to try that. And then the line spacing, of course, we need to improve a little more. Yeah, I have already applied this. This is pretty readable, but this is something you need to consider while you are doing the changes. So let's see what we have done. So I have used color to highlight what area, but like these are the table of contents right now. As user scrolls, these sections change the color. So here I use the color to highlight it. Also from on the previous screen, you can see that is only black color. So now there is like more hierarchy and more like you can find where something is clickable. And also since Figma introduced the styling in the underline, so I have experimented with that. And you can see the paragraphs are now distinguished. I should probably increase the spacing in that paragraph spacing. I am very reluctant to add this, which is bad. I should. So here we have 24. Let's add 24. Yeah, I don't like it, but let's keep it uh, by the standards. And yes, we have fixed our design, which was only text heavy, by applying the rules, the text styling rules that we learned here. Now, since you know a lot about the font, as the typeface, God, I've made this mistake so many times. So you avoid that. You guys should practice and avoid that. So this is the assignment. So now you should choose two fonts from this provided list. So we have this list, and creates a separate Figma document for each font. Maybe you different pages and you. So what should be in that? Here is the description of the assignment, by the way. So what you have to do is, so I am assuming that you are working on a UI project, you are creating mobile application or web application, and you need to choose a font. So you need to finalize two options. So you chose two of them from the given ones, these ones, or get creative and find your own. No worries in that. And then you need to explain why you chose it and why it is suitable. So if you don't have a project, you will tell which avenue will suit will this platform. So you need to do the digging and the research and reading on this font and history and how, and experiment by placing it and reading the details. Or if you, it is your project, you have to connect which of one of these just match your platform and why. And then you need to bring out all the use cases which will bring the best of this platform, this what do you say, particular typeface. Then you have to do uh, this like the styling requirements. So style it in at least four different ways, and have some headings and body text and captions ready, and apply them and see how it is going to work in your project or in any document. And then you are going to explore, like when you are doing all of this, you need to focus what is this typeface and font's personality. And yep, and highlight why would you choose it and how it will be beneficial for the your what sorry for your project. And the next thing you have to do is create a type scale for your project. And again, finalize one of the two fonts or maybe a full pairing, and at least create a scale which has four headings, at least two body font sizes, and the body sizes need to have weights like we discussed, at least three, and then captions or body three, both are same. And save the scale in Figma and get to work with your project. This is all for the typography. Thank you so much. See you guys in another video.